Okay, that worked. Yeah, I tried to click on the link and it just said invalid, and then no, I couldn't put in a password or anything. So I guess paste that link for everybody. I don't know what the deal is. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah, Mark, I had to use the link that ends with 9740 to get in. I don't know if Mark's here, but I had to use the link for the what is it, the 10 a.m. Pacific time one, which is the 1 p.m. That was the one that worked for me.
Right. There may be a typo somewhere, but we'll work around it.
Yeah, because I sent them all to my best friend in Germany and via WhatsApp last night, and then that's how I got back in through WhatsApp rather than through Star Trek Family. Because,
So you weren't
and
able
I'm
to
going
get
to
in.
send.
You weren't able to get in with the link that I posted.
No, I got in through the link that you posted on Facebook, that, and not the one you posted just now, but the one that you posted in the calendar like a few weeks ago or something, that ends with 9740 for the meeting number. I'll put it in the chat for you. Let me move the captions so I can get to the chat. There you go, Mark. It cut out the password, but you know that. So that was the link that got me in. And I put that in WhatsApp because Rosina doesn't do Facebook. But she's also in the middle of a big remodeling project. So sorry while I'm rude and eat dinner.
What are you eating?
Classic American peanut butter and jelly on rye.
Are you
Yeah.
using the honey rye or are you just regular rye?
Regular seeded rye.
Right.
Yeah. I don't like white bread very much because it's just too bland.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all right. My jokes are dry, dude.
That's okay. They're allowed to be. Did you enjoy your holidays, Denny?
I guess. I got punched by an elf.
That's not supposed to happen.
On Christmas Day.
Yeah, on Christmas Day, dude.
That's not good.
No, my sister's cat got stolen.
So sorry.
But it's whatever.
I'm so sorry about that.
Nah, well.
I hope the cat comes back.
No, it's not. It's not going to.
Oh. That's awful.
Yeah, well, it technically wasn't their cat, but they had it for about 6 or 7 months or whatever. And my family-in-law conspired against my brother-in-law to steal the cat back instead of just asking it back like an adult would.
Oh, so it was a custody dispute.
Basically, but the dude had abandoned the cat and they tried to, contact him and he blocked them. And then it was like he lived with them, brought the cat with him, and then left. And then it was like 4 months later, and they took the cat to the vet, because that's what you do.
Yeah.
And
Right.
the vet was like, well, if he's left the cat there for that long, you can re-register the cat in your name because it's abandonment, especially since you had regular contact with him, and now he's basically refusing contact.
Mhm.
Because they had his regular phone number and Facebook, and they blocked him on Facebook and all this
Mhm.
noise.
Yeah.
And then on
Right.
Christmas Day, the whole step
Mhm.
family, like not step family, but the whole in-law family came over. Like my two sister-in-laws and father-in-law came over
Mhm.
and straight absconded with the cat.
Oh.
That's really nice.
And yeah, I'm not gonna go into all that, but
Mhm.
the cat's back with its owner, but the owner wasn't even there to
Oh.
like say like, hey, can I have my cat back? You know what I mean? Because like they would have totally
Mhm.
given the cat back, but it's
Yeah.
just the fact of they straight stole the cat. And then
Mhm.
one of my other sisters-in-law got in a fight with my sister, and me and my brother-in-law were trying to break it up, and I got punched in the face. And she's like 4'11" or
Yeah.
4'6" or something. She's just real small.
Mhm.
So that's the joke I've
Yeah.
been telling everybody. I got punched by an elf on Christmas because I didn't deserve it, man.
Yeah. That's too bad.
But that's whatever. But other
Yeah.
than that, it was good.
Right.
The kids had a good time. Besides that whole
I was able to get
situation,
on.
Yeah.
we went over on New Year's
Oh,
to hang out with them again, and that was fun because it was just us normal people. So that was cool.
Okay.
How was yours?
Okay. Spent Christmas Eve at my sister's because we always celebrate over there. My nephew's a firefighter, so he was working, so he wasn't there, but my nieces were there. My one niece studies in Buffalo, which is 5.5 hours away. So it was nice to have her in town.
Oh, that's cool.
And then, yeah, so got to see her. And, we're kind of a lowish drama family usually. So, and we're really a small family. And my sister's in-laws celebrate on Christmas Day. So somehow she married the perfect guy when it comes to that kind of thing.
Drama is
Yeah, we've never.
drama like that is for like television, man. Like
Yeah,
you can just leave that at home or whatever, man.
yeah. I mean, the
my
big,
daughter and her
the big,
husband.
the big thing was my sister and her husband have a new dog, and Peppermint likes to chew a lot. And my sister, we're all trying to be more environmentally aware, so we're trying to get away from gift wrap and use like recyclable stuff. And I couldn't I didn't have any gift bags that would fit my sister's the tea towels that my sister wanted. So I was desperate. I grabbed some pot holders from Dollar Tree, and pot holders from Dollar Tree you will burn your hands with. I've used them. They're horrible. And so I warned my sister, I'm like, don't use those pot holders to actually grab pans with. And she's like, do you mind if I give them to the dog? I'm like, do whatever, just don't use them to like grab pans with. So the dog enjoyed the evening shredding the pot holders. And if you're curious, Dollar Tree pot holders last about 15 minutes with a dog.
That's hilarious.
Funny.
What kind of dog is
dog
this?
was happy. She's a rat terrier mix of some sort.
Aww.
She's about 1.5 or 2, and she's got one baby tooth that's still teething. And so she is going through that whole teething thing where the vet has said she's just struggling to finish teething this one tooth.
Oh,
and she's cheerful, but she chews through one chew toy a day or more.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but she's adorable. She's sweet. She's gentle. She knows the difference between
Aw.
chewing through a human hand and chewing through a chew toy. Thank goodness.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
Maybe younger if
Toys don't scream as loud as humans do.
Yeah,
Exactly.
my
Exactly.
sister has a half Maine Coon cat, and so
Mhm.
it's not like super huge, but it's big
Yeah.
enough. And
Mhm.
she usually starts meowing whenever you're annoying her. And
Mhm.
like I said, we were out there on New Year's, and she bit my arm. And
Mhm.
usually when cats like
Ooh.
bite you, it's just like a little love nibble. No,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I got like both canines and an incisor
Ooh.
Yeah.
puncture wounds on my arm.
Oh no.
Yeah. I've had that experience.
Yeah, and she misses her play buddy, you know. So she's
Mhm.
stressed out, probably just wasn't in the mood.
Is that the one that got stolen?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Boots is the one that got stolen, and Boots is not coming back because the family that stole Boots returned Boots to the original owner. And you know, the whole problem was is that like the original owner could have come up and said like, "Hey, I really want my cat. I'm sending them to come get the cat. So please give them the cat." Instead of
Yeah.
them straight up, you know, doing this whole conspiracy thing.
Oh gosh.
And because you know, we had my nieces and nephews over there, and then one of the other sister-in-laws had their niece and their children over there. So we had a house full of kids, and of course the cat gets stolen, and now the kids are freaking out.
Immigration,
So
except from.
so it's
Some
just
people
like,
just like drama.
yeah, it's just like, dude, act like an adult instead of a fool, but whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Hello, Star Trek family, and welcome to our second event of Voyager 30. Happy 30th anniversary of Voyager to everybody.
Hey, welcome
Yes.
back.
Happy anniversary.
We are so happy to see all of you back. Thank you for coming back. Those of you that were on the early broadcast, we had to break it up into smaller segments like this so that we can upload them to YouTube in case somebody wasn't able to view them on the first run, so they can go back and watch again. But happy to have you back. Happy to have some new folks join us. Hi, Larry, and Gordon is with us. John Cole. Hi, John. Guy. And Marina Kravchuk. Hi, how are you?
You need to give opportunity to the new people to hear about the auction.
Yes, I'm going to.
Don't call it new.
So tonight, this event that we have is a pre-recorded interview with senior illustrator and technical consultant Rick Sternbach, who you may or may not know. Hi, John. Designed the USS Voyager and many of the shuttlecraft and alien ships and props. Yes, he's got the Voyager over there.
Are you having
So
nuts? I've already.
this was a very, very interesting interview. He takes us through a visual video that or a presentation that he does about the various forms of Voyager and other things. So we're going to watch that just like we watch any episode, do an episode watch. We're going to watch that recorded interview, and then we're going to come back and sort of discuss it. And yeah, it'll be fun. I've always wondered how like the process of designing the ship was. Hi, Spock. Yep, we got the Voyager and the Delta Flyer, and really cool stuff. We're going to learn all about that. Most of you know by now, but the whole month of January that we're doing Voyager 30, we are raising money for charity. We are supporting a charity out of Los Angeles called the Hollywood Food Coalition, which is really interesting. They go to all of the film studios in LA and they rescue the craft services and the catering and the food that doesn't get eaten by the crews. And then they take it back to their warehouse, they recook it, repackage it, repurpose it, and then they feed the homeless in Los Angeles County with it. They also provide clothing and blankets, personal items like toothbrushes and stuff like that, and mobile shower trucks, which is really cool. So we're very happy and proud to support them through this month. Now, at any time you can make a donation throughout the month. We have a QR code that's going to show up in the chat in just a moment, along with a link. You can use either one to get to where you can make a donation. Also, for most of our Voyager 30 events, we have Voyager-related prizes that we're going to be giving away. So if you make a donation of any amount between now and the end of this Zoom, your name will be entered into a drawing for the prize for today, which, since we're starting at the very beginning of Voyager 30 celebration, is 2 collector's items TV guide copies. These were the very first 2 that Voyager ever had. One was before Voyager aired. The other was the week that Voyager aired. They're both in mint condition. At some point tonight, I will draw a name from that hat, and whoever I pull will win this. So that's if you make a donation to the charity.
Curse, you love bears, don't you?
I'm going to put that in chat right now.
She has 3 bears.
Okay, there's the QR code. And here is the link.
Look at Reese's bear.
Yeah.
And
Speaking of bears,
oh yeah,
where's our Jordy bear?
bear.
Or you have Jadzia. Yeah, she's got Jadzia. So.
Jesse, it looks
Adorable. Jetsy is adorable.
Sometimes. Okay.
I,
All right.
I love
I
yours
don't
too,
want-
Mary Beth and Reese.
Yes.
That's
Black bear.
my
Black bear has traveled the
Black
world.
bear goes cruising. He's
Yes,
pictures
Black bear
taken
does.
with lots of the stars.
It's a little horse. What's her name? What's that horse from?
My Little Pony. That's what that is.
My Little Pony. No,
Yeah.
it's not My Little Pony. What is it? Oh,
Rainbow Dash. That's the name.
yes,
Rainbow Dash.
okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed this interview. And like I said, I'm a big technophile. I love learning. I've got all of the technical manuals for all the ships on my desk here. I love learning about all this stuff. So this interview sheds a lot of light on the design process of Voyager and other things. So enjoy it. We recommend that while we're streaming this, that you turn off your camera and your microphone for streaming bandwidth. And then afterwards, we will come back and discuss it. So sit back and enjoy. And let me just share my screen here. Star Trek family, welcome to another Voyager 30 special presentation. We are celebrating the 30th anniversary of Star Trek Voyager. My name is Mark Sickle, and I am your host of the Star Trek family. My co-host tonight, TJ Jesnog, is the host of the Jupiter Station Star Trek podcast. And tonight, we are joined by a member of Star Trek royalty. He was the senior illustrator and technical consultant for Star Trek Voyager, and he has worked on so many Star Trek productions, from the motion picture to the Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Nemesis, among others. He's responsible for the design of Deep Space Nine Station, along with Mike Okuda and others, and he is the primary designer of the USS Voyager, and we are very happy to have him on with us. Welcome, Rick Sternbach, and we appreciate you joining us today.
Well, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot to both of you, and let's have some fun with some images, and I'll tell you all about the ship.
Wonderful. So you have a presentation for us about the design process of the USS Voyager as part of our celebration of the show's 30th anniversary. But before we jump in, we'd like to remind you that our Voyager 30 celebration is helping to raise charity funds for the Hollywood Food Coalition, a nonprofit charity that feeds, clothes, and provides personal items for the homeless and needy populations of Los Angeles County. At any point during this broadcast or throughout the month of January, please join us in donating something, no matter how much, to the QR code that is to my right. And you will see that I'll post it on our Facebook page as well. So please join us in bringing some much needed hope and food to people who really need it. Rick, you have the floor, sir. Tell us all about Voyager.
Okay, let's do this. Share this. Right, and all right. Well, back in 1994 or so, we got the word that another show was coming up after Next Generation, and this was going to be Star Trek Voyager, involving a smaller ship with a smaller crew. And some very strange things happened to the ship and the crew right from the first episode. So let's get into it. The image on the left, of course, is the USS Voyager. Then there's a mandala from Commander Chakotay, and later on in the series, we had the USS Prometheus. So we'll see a little bit of everything here. Now, Voyager, we got the word from the producers that, again, this is a smaller ship, smaller than the Galaxy class Enterprise, of course, and with a smaller crew, maybe 150 people on board, I got started doing sketches, and of course, I start with little doodles. I try to get shapes that kind of worked for me in terms of the Starfleet stylistic cues. Does the hardware make sense? Okay. And yes, the Intrepid class would come after the Galaxy class was already, established. What would go into these drawings that told you right off the bat, okay, this is Starfleet. Okay. What did we have before Voyager? We had the various Enterprise ships. We had things like the Runabout from DS9. We had various shuttlecraft that were all within the Starfleet style. So I just started, putting sketches together to see what the producers, would jump on, what would talk to them, and I went in a number of different directions. Okay, sort of, kind of like the Reliant, maybe a new shape for the body. Okay, we've had oval saucers, we've had round saucers. Okay, would it be time to get into more of a dart-like shape, almost like a throwing knife kind of thing? Well, with ships like the Prometheus, we saw that. We got to do that later. But Voyager, I really wanted to see a more streamlined shape. And here were a couple of versions of what that smaller, sleeker spaceship could look like. For me, I can tell you what every single piece of these ships does could look like. For me, I can tell you what every single piece of these ships does. Okay, I know what every single component is and how it works. Okay, and they trusted me for 15 years, to know this stuff. But this is how it started with these sorts of sketches. We even got to the point of building a mock-up. I built this out of foam core and Bondo putty and bits of plastic and little bits of cardstock. And at the same time, the set designers were getting into things like the bridge and the ready room and the conference lounge and the things like the crew quarters. Okay, so I would look at what the set designers were doing and started incorporating some of those things into the model. Okay, well, this particular model, the producers got to walk around it. They got to talk about it. I even, gave them like this cross section of what could be on the inside of this smaller ship. Okay, deck heights, as far as the sets go, the deck heights were pretty much similar to what was on the Galaxy class Enterprise. Okay, but in a smaller package. Okay, what other features could we have in there? And where would the nacelles go? Where would the plasma be channeled from the warp core out to the nacelles? All of that stuff. Again, this is very, very preliminary, but we would get, we would firm things up as we went along. Now that prototype, okay, got turned into an actual die-cast model from Eagle Moss, okay, based on some CG renders that you can see here, and I've got one of those die casts, back in my collection. But again, this was one direction that we were going in, and then Jerry Taylor, bless her, I miss her. Jerry pulled me aside and she said, could you make it a little curvier, kind of like a Lexus? And I said, Jerry, for you, anything. So I went and I reworked the blueprints to give it, a few more of the compound curves that we saw in the Galaxy class, and shortened up the nacelles. Some of the fans have said, oh, those nacelles are too short. And I said, well, when you have densified Verterium cortinide in the coils, you can make them shorter. Okay, so yeah. But this is what Voyager turned into, and it worked. Here's a top view, CG render of the ship, and every single part, I know how this thing, works. There's impulse engines in the tail. There's the shuttle bays. Everything that a good starship needs was worked into this design. You have the phaser strips, you have the transport emitters, escape pods, sensor pallets, secondary deflector and main sensor. All that stuff is here. And if we needed to see something during an episode, I could tell the producers and the writers, okay, this is what you're going to see. This is how this is going to work. And they wove it into the stories. Okay, close-ups of the 5-foot miniature. Tony Meininger had a company called Brazil Fabrication. I saw this thing in stages as it was built. They built the master parts. They molded the master parts in just bathtubs full of blue rubber. And then they pulled out fiberglass, castings. They worked up the castings, they cleaned them up, they added details to them. And these are some of the gorgeous close-up parts that they have on the 5-footer. Okay, here's a shot of the main deflector. Okay, again, borrowing some of the stylistic cues from the Galaxy class and updating them a little bit. We never saw the Aero shuttle. Okay, we called it the Aero wing originally, but it turned out that the hockey team, the Mighty Ducks, had a toy called the Aero wing, so we couldn't use that. So we called it the Aero shuttle, and that worked out fine. Foundation Imaging, who did a lot of our great CGI animation. Okay, they worked up, they fleshed out the top of this thing. Okay, I've got the bottom part, and I gave them some ideas for what this thing could look like. We could have used the runabout interior sets for this. Had they decided to work the Aero shuttle into a story, so we could have saved a few bucks there. But this Foundation did a test render of the Aero shuttle deployment, which looked fantastic. But not everything gets done. We might have gone off on location with a mock-up, with a full-size set piece of a landing foot. The construction coordinator did a budget on this and said, no, we can't do this. But it's okay, because we got to see Voyager land with a lot of CG assets applied. So that worked out okay. Voyager's lifeboat, okay, also used for the Defiant because it fit. It was a lifeboat. My lifeboats, have docking ports where you could gaggle them together to save on, survival supplies, right? So you could run a string of, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these lifeboats, and just, maybe wait for rescue, that kind of thing. So again, all of the hardware stuff that I understood gets worked into these. Shuttles, we did shuttles. We wanted to take the Type 6 shuttle that we were using for next gen. Hang on half a second here. Okay, yeah, and there we go. And Greg Jean was able to modify or update one of the shuttle miniatures, and it doesn't look exactly like the sketch, but it has the Voyager era styling, so that worked for us. The shuttle that we nicknamed the Speedboat, okay, smaller shuttle. They wanted to find a different place for the shuttles to exit and enter. And I had to explain to them, no, we've got one main shuttle bay and no other entry doorways or, garage bays or anything like that. And then they said, okay, all right, we're fine. But we worked up the interior of this shuttle and had a miniature constructed, again, Starfleet styling. We were able to, film the interior, and this particular shuttle design, I tried to get as close as possible to the basic dimensions of the interior set. Okay, so you didn't have a case of well, the interior is way bigger than the exterior, which happens a lot in film. Here's a front shot, and again, you have RCS thrusters, you've got the nacelles, you've got you know, a main deflector and main sensor. So that, you know, that was all worked in. Top view, lots of sensors, transport emitters, you know, and graphics, you know, over the hull. Now, I was able to, you know, really update the speedboat shuttle when it came time for Admiral Janeway's future shuttle. A lot sleeker, a lot smoother, you know, way more streamlined, but again, part of the same design lineage. Delta Flyer, you know, small shuttles, you know, weren't enough. We had to have a bigger spacecraft. You know, Tom Paris went through all of those crazy design, you know, schemes, you know, showing things off. And, you know, I was back in the art department sketching like crazy. Now, the set, the interior set, the cockpit set, was already well underway. So I worked in the window frames, you know, just to make sure that everything was going to fit. You see the main window, the main cockpit window there has a little bit of Borg styling to it, because, you know, there were Borg elements that 7 and 9 contributed to this. Again, more sketches, blue pencil, you know, 2B pencil, ink, you know, just getting the design a little further along each time, and finally getting down into, you know, a design that has a few, you know, a few curves, and you know, matching a lot of what Voyager had on its exterior. And here's, you know, the final color sketch, and you know, it's a tan shuttle type craft as opposed to the bluish runabout, which was, you know, a much bigger, you know, true starship. Now, Delta Flyer even had escape pods. I have no idea exactly where these were stored inside, but you could kind of figure that maybe they could squeeze 2 on one side and 2 on the other side. Prometheus was a lot of fun later on. Again, I love the streamlined pointiness, you know, slicing through the continuum kind of shape. The Equinox, the Equinox was actually, you know, it started out as a backstory piece for the Defiant, okay? And in the DS9 tech manual, we show this basic plan form that, you know, could have been the Defiant. But then they added more armor, more weaponry to the Defiant, you know, tucked in the nacelles, put some armored shell around them. But when it came time to actually do the Equinox in the episode, okay, I took the original, this, you know, I took a smaller version of this sketch to Peter Lawrenson, who was our visual effects producer. And I said, Peter, what about this? We haven't used it. It's small enough. It fits, you know, it fits the specs. And he said, oh, let's do it. So that was the fastest approval I ever got on a design. And here's what Eden Effects was able to do with the blueprints. I gave them little pointers occasionally while they were building this model, and it turned out great. I mean, you know, lots of damage encountered, you know, in the episodes. Now back to doing more NASA type things. Okay, in One Small Step, we had a Mars craft. Okay, and this is the kind of stuff I could do in my sleep. Okay, very NASA-ish shapes. Okay, but there's cargo modules that you might say, hey, you know, I think I saw those on the Botany Bay. And the main deflector, you know, the big radar type dish, okay, that to me was, you know, what could have evolved into a ship's main deflector. Right. And here's what Foundation Imaging did with the final blueprints that I gave them. You know, I'm not sure I would go with solar panels like this today, but you know, it said NASA. Okay, there's a reentry capsule, there's a habitat, there's a forward cockpit area, kind of like what you're seeing on the International Space Station. Okay, so this fit the bill. I mean, this to me, with 2 added booster stages that headed out from Earth. Okay, I can see this going to Mars. And there's Phil Morris, you know, floating inside the cabin. We borrowed a lot of shapes and a lot of colors from the space station, the International Space Station interior, hatches, control panels, signage, you know, patches everywhere, little bits of Velcro, and you know, operational manuals Velcro to the walls, that kind of thing. And you can see some of that here, some of the Velcro patches, some of the, there are actually numbers on the windows. And you know, it worked. The set designers brought in hardware, you know, like the control seats, things that look sort of like ejection seats, but you know, the hardware just, you know, it worked. It spoke to us. Jupiter Station, you know, on Voyager, we were lucky enough to have some 3D modeling software for our Macs. Okay, and you know, I could send a file like this to our visual effects people. Okay, and with some color ideas, you know, some little notes about okay, you know, colors, textures, reflectivity, that kind of thing, and they would be able to, you know, the effects vendors would be able to turn out these final models. To me, Jupiter Station would have been great if you had taken 6 decommissioned Starship hulls and bolted them together. You know, again, it says Starfleet. Alien stuff. This was fun. The species 8472. You know, we were able to throw together even, you know, very alien-looking shapes, and have the VFX guys, you know, play with that and add, you know, strange colors and lighting, and you know, this says alien to me, so that worked. I say upscale marina because I went to Peter Lordson, our VFX producer, and I said, you know, Peter, look, you know, we go to a lot of these space stations and there's grease, there's you know, hardware hanging off the walls, and could we like maybe go someplace nice for once? You know, and I thought that the you know, the this big upscale station, you know, could look kind of like a marina with boat docks. Okay, but in space, so it worked. The Hirogen, they had their own style of base. Now, if you look at the triangle parts, okay, those big sort of spiky cone things, those originally came from the Hirogen spaceship set, from the control set on stage. And I said, you know, look, let's remind the viewer, okay, if you see something on stage, okay, let's work it into the exterior, okay, and that worked. And there's, you know, two of those long spiky parts for the hunter ship, okay, and you know, put some you know, warp nest cells inside those, okay, and again, different styling. You know, you could not confuse this with Starfleet. Okay, this was an alien thing. The Kazon, they had their own, you know, strange alien styling, a little bit, you know, a little bit more streamlined, but still, you know, you would not confuse this with Federation stuff, Starfleet stuff. You know, hand props, you know, coming up with, you know, a style that would be instantly recognizable. Okay, you know, you look at you look at a Starfleet phaser, it's different from the Kazon, it's different from Cardassian, it's different from Romulan, different from Klingon. Everybody's got their own set of stylistic rules. And back to Starfleet, okay, you know, a nice streamlined, you know, high-powered phaser rifle. You know, Janeway took one of these things and ran through the corridor with it. Looked great. Back, you know, back to an alien ship. You know, I get into inking, you know, on top of, you know, on top of some very, very basic 3D polygon models. Okay. And in the detailing, you know, I get to work out, okay, what, you know, what stylistic cues would the Cranham have, okay? And you know, that all got worked up, you know, within a couple of days, because every 10 days we were into a whole new episode. You know, and here's a color version of a Cranham ship. You know, these sketches were turned out, they were given to the producers, given to the visual effects vendors, and you know, the episodes were made. Parturition, the reptile alien ship. You know, this, again, you know, we don't know a whole lot about the alien of the week. You know, if we got to see the ship once, okay, it was strange, it was alien, and it worked within the episode. The Voth had, again, their own style, their own set of colors. You know, if dinosaurs evolved to fly spaceships, okay, there you go. And there's the Voth City ship. Now you can see Voyager for scale. That's a big ship. The Malon had their garbage ships, their fuel ships. You know, this to me was kind of a combination of, as I'm saying in the caption, you know, Art Deco. Okay, things like steam locomotives and diesel trains, combined with liquefied natural gas container ships. Okay, and you have something totally, you know, weird and alien, and worked for the episode. Space elevator from Rise. You know, this space elevators, you know, it was a concept I knew long before, you know, before Voyager. But again, we had an alien world where they put together an elevator and made it run. Props, things like the desktop monitors. At one point, we were thinking of using MacBooks. You know, but you know, we ended up modifying, you know, some desktop monitors, you know, that simply lit up from behind. Okay, these days, you throw a tablet in there and you've got a working prop. Okay, we didn't have that back on Voyager. It was coming, but we didn't have it back then. hand props. I have not a clue what that antenna does. Okay, but they wanted it, as a flip up thing. And anything that the actors did with these props, okay, it was to give them some business, give them buttons to push, pieces to open up, things to do with the prop. More props. Every episode had at least a couple of props that had to be drawn up, and you can see the doctor's holographic planton. It's in there. It's the second one. Sets. I got to help out with sketches of the sets every so often. This was astrometrics, and this worked terrific. It didn't look exactly like this, but it was one step along the way. More prop things, more visual effects items that had to be designed and gone through the approval process, and then constructed for real or as CG. More props. Okay, medical props. Science gear, computer gear, lots of that. Things to be incorporated into consoles. If a line in the script said, okay, some of the crew are working on, in the internal guts of the consoles. Well, somebody had to design it. More props. I did lots and lots of cylinders to contain different things. Science fair from Child's Play. Okay, those potatoes. Okay, they made a master part. They molded up 2 of them because they had to be identical. Okay, it couldn't just use 2 potatoes from the grocery store. They made 2 potatoes. And there's part of the science fair where I got to do I got to paint the globe, and that worked out as a fun little prop. Visual effects, put some animated graphics around the globe, so you got to see that sort of in action. And every so often, I got away from spaceships. Okay, I got to do things for different creatures. Got to help Michael Westmore out with just some ideas for alien makeup. But this was fun. I love working in blue pencil. And again, not a spaceship, but part of a science fiction story. Now, you see the shapes here, okay? This big spiral and those straight lines, okay? And you can see it in the mandala design and in the scratches on the ground, that kind of thing. Well, I didn't tell Jerry Taylor until later that this is actually a map of the Milky Way. Okay, and those lines are wormholes. So Chakotay's ancestors knew something about the galaxy. And it was fun. It worked as a design, but it also, the backstory also made sense.
That was such a cool touch.
Huh?
That is such a cool touch.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. We didn't, let me back out of this. Okay. There we go.
That's awesome. Such an amazingly beautiful work all the way around. Obviously you kind of dove in with Voyager itself, but then you've got this whole other playground to design other ships, and I didn't even know that you designed the creatures. So that's really cool too. TJ, did you want to start off asking a couple questions?
Yeah, hang on. Let me get my notepad out.
Gotcha.
Here we are.
Do I hear some strange whining?
I think
Not that I know of.
I think TJ, do you have a child in the background?
He's in the next room over, ironically enough. All right. So you've been in production design for probably one of the most iconic franchises. How did you come about getting that job?
Well, as I explained to Mark a little bit earlier, I was already an illustrator for the New York publishing market. Okay, when I lived back in Connecticut in the early '70s. Okay, and I was living outside of New Haven, Connecticut, and going into New York every so often to deliver cover paintings and interior illustrations and all this. And I happened to notice a little article in our local newspaper. Okay, tiny little piece of an article. Gene Roddenberry is coming to Yale University for a screening of The Cage. Okay, this was 1974, right? And I didn't go to Yale, but I lived nearby. And just out of the blue, I called the studio. I cold called the studio, and I don't recall exactly who I talked to at Paramount, but I introduced myself as a science fiction and space illustrator. I heard Gene is coming to town. Would I be able to maybe meet with him for a little bit after the screening? And they said yes. Wow. And I drove down to Yale, met with Gene after the screening, and we must have talked for at least an hour about science fiction, about space. The Apollo program had wrapped up. The Apollo Soyuz project hadn't happened yet. Okay, so this was a pretty amazing time. Having us having gone to the moon, right? Gene wanted to get, into maybe another series, maybe a film. It wouldn't happen for another, 3-4 years. And in the time between first meeting and when I first got hired in Los Angeles, okay, I was at the World SF Convention in Kansas City in '76. The Worldcon's a big, a big literary SF con. Well, at the convention, there was a display and costumes and people associated with Star Wars. '76, the movie hadn't come out yet. They were still in post-production. Well, I got to meet Mark Hamill for like 20 seconds. Charlie Lippincott, who was their publicist. I met Gary Kurtz, one of their producers. And all around the room were Ralph McQuarrie's paintings from Star Wars. And my jaw just dropped. And I thought, wow, is this something I could maybe do? And that set me on the road toward, thinking about doing work in film and TV. In 1977, I'll finish this story up quick. In 1977, I visited a number of studios in LA. I was over at MGM, talking to some folks there. Disney, Paramount. Okay, well, at Paramount, Joe Jennings was production designer on Phase 2. which wasn't really happening yet. Okay, met with Joe, met with Mike Miner, who was, just terrific to talk to because he was like-minded in science fiction. Okay, and he was an artist. Okay, I got to meet some of the set designers. And Joe was, he was a straight shooter. He said, I don't have anything for you at the moment. Well, I left all of my samples, my art samples, resume, and I managed to get a little bit of work at Disney on the Black Hole. Okay, but that shut down pretty quick because they had to go back and work on the script. Okay, and yeah, I did some. I sent some artwork back to the New York publishers by long distance, and then there was the night that Joe Jennings called me and said, "They're announcing the film in the morning. Do you want to come in?" Star Trek: The Motion Picture. And what was I going to say? No.
I bet you were pretty floored by that.
I had a small apartment in Burbank, and yeah, I went in, and they had the press conference on stage with the actors, with Robert Wise, and we all watched the presentation. The announcement that Star Trek: The Motion Picture was going to be a feature film. As soon as that was over, Mike Miner and I went upstairs to the art department, and we started getting things rolling. And that was for Joe to trust me to know how to do this kind of art, was huge. I will never forget what he did for me. And Joe left to work on the Shogun, the series, and Harold Michelson came in as production designer. And Harold was an amazing teacher. He had worked for Hitchcock. Harold taught me how to do projection from a floor plan of a set, drafting lines up to a film plane. Okay, because if a director said, "Hey, I want a window over here on this wall," you could then backtrack it to where it needed to be on the blueprints. And that opened my brain up like crazy. Okay, and working with Harold, was very easy, a lot of fun. We had so many ideas for things, working with Lee Cole on the graphics. She had, I think, previously worked at Rockwell on the B-1 bomber, that kind of thing. So Lee set the style for the graphics for the Enterprise, I followed her lead and ended up doing about a third of the signage and control panels for the ship. So that is the start.
Yeah, no, totally. PJ?
Huh?
That is probably one of the most epic origin stories I think I've ever heard. That is by far one of the coolest things, and someday when I grow up, I want to be a production designer too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was a senior illustrator. I didn't work all the way up to art director or production designer, but I had just a ton of fun working for the people that I worked for.
Well, it's interesting because you started out on the motion picture and you talk about, all of the work that you did on the Enterprise in the motion picture, and you get a chance to really dive into some design work in the Next Generation, right? There's a lot of the Vorchik Klingon attack cruiser that you were talking about, the Enterprise D. I'm sorry, the Enterprise D was Andy Probert, but all the ships that you got to design in Next Gen, it's interesting that you did a lot of the shuttlecrafts in the Next Generation. Is that correct? Design works.
And on Next Generation, I got to take the shuttle that they had worked up for the movies around the same time. Okay, and we shortened it. We took about 6 feet out of the middle, gave it new nacelles, called it the Type 6. That was the shuttle that was the big shuttle for the Galaxy class. Okay, I also got to do the shuttle pod, which was that tiny little, angular box that I wish I had more time to work on. I was working with Dick McKenzie, one of our set designers, and we came in on a Saturday so that he could draft the plans up for the exterior and the interior. Okay, so that was a bit of a rush, but we got it, we got it built, and again, it followed basic Starfleet style. I would have loved to have put more stuff on the outside of it. Okay, but it is what it is. Okay, and there were, I think between Next Generation and the end of Voyager, I think I ended up doing like 50 different ships and shuttles for all different cultures.
Wow.
I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah. But in all of that time, you never really worked on sort of the hero ship, right? Until Voyager comes along, right?
Well, I got to work on the Enterprise C.
Oh.
Okay. The Ambassador class, Andy Probert had started that. Okay. And, he came up with a couple of very nice color illustrations of the sea. But again, there were time crunches. The shape had to be simplified a bit, and Greg Jean and his team built a miniature for that. If they had to do a lot of compound curve work on that, they might not have made the deadline, that kind of thing. So yeah, I did the C. I helped put the blueprints together based on John Eves' sketches for the Sovereign class.
Oh, cool.
Okay. And yeah, I blueprinted Deep Space Nine. Jim Martin and I did the Runabout. Runabout's no slouch.
The Runabout's one of my favorites. I actually really love the Runabout a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, when you were looking at some of the early designs of Voyager, you talked about how it had elements of the Runabout in the early design.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Right? The gull wings that kind of curve down and the nacelles on the struts.
Yeah, it was a starting point. It really, I mean, before Voyager, what did we have to go back and look at?
Right.
Not much. Okay. The Oberth class. No.
The Oberth. What a interesting ship design.
But that being said, Rick, I gotta ask, how did the biogel packs become a thing for Voyager? Was that something that was handed down from the production staff, or did you guys kind of brainstorm that?
Yeah, okay, say again, which was that?
The bio gel packs, I guess it was the.
Oh, the gel packs. Yeah. Well, there, the writers and the producers, to their credit, they kept up with the news. They kept up with science, um, and a number of our writers, understood this stuff. Okay, and the thought of the gel packs, I didn't come up with that. That was something that got worked into like a script synopsis, and then it was up to me to sketch out, okay, what would that look like in the context of Voyager's computer hardware, and that kind of thing. And the whole idea of the gel pack was if you had a gel full of neural tissue, the idea being floated around in real science, okay, was that this neural stuff would make a whole series of decisions, and the majority rule applied. Okay, so if you got like 95 neurons saying let's do this, and the other neurons saying no, well, the majority wins. And that was the idea behind the gel pack. Okay, I just came up with an interface, something the bag would fit into, that kind of thing. And then they wrote it into the story.
It's an interesting design element, and I think they really played it out well on screen, in the storyline. But really cool to have that sort of a design element on a living, breathing, like on a starship, right? Like as part of their systems. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
PJ?
Okay, well, I might as well ask this one. So, when you're not busy having the time of your life drawing amazing things, what do you do in your free time?
Well, I'm actually still drawing. Most of it's on the computer. I do a lot of aftermarket decal sets for model kits. Most of the decal work that I do is for historical spacecraft and launch vehicles, things like the Saturn V. Okay, things like Mercury Redstone, Gemini, the Apollo lunar module, things like that. So I've the real space side of me, is very much into what markings were on the spacecraft. Okay, so I do decals through a company called Microscale, and that keeps my historical space brain occupied. But on the correct side of things, okay, I've put together bits of a story to go with some of these other decals, and the story involves a team from the Office of Starfleet Intelligence. Okay, no Section 31, sorry, but I'm having a ton of fun playing with ideas for what an intelligence team would do in trying to understand or counter something that could mess up the Federation badly. And if you go back to a movie like 3 Days of the Condor, where Robert Redford was playing an analyst who discovers little bits and pieces that he connects together. That's what my start, my intelligence team is trying to do. They're seeing things that are happening out in the galaxy. And Carolyn Hagee, who was a young woman who was very smart, sort of puts things together that the computers might be missing. So for me, it's involving a lot of going back into things like how fast is subspace radio, how fast is warp drive really, okay, and instead of instead of a lot of modern Trek is doing, like, okay, 15 light years in 5 minutes. It doesn't work like that. So I'm imposing limits on my characters and what the hardware can do, and just having a ball. Okay. I'm currently on part 4, which will be the conclusion of the story. And I can send you a link, about where to go and find the bits that are written so far.
Cool. I would love to read that.
Yeah. So that's my fun.
Besides for all the sketching and the drawing and all that.
Yeah.
Well, shoot.
I mean, I sketch, I doodle,
That's way cooler than my free time, Rick. All I do is I'm the executive officer for an Inquiry class starship.
All right, there you go.
Pretty cool hatch you got there. Just to take it back to Voyager a little bit, we talked about the biogel packs. You talked about the Arrow wing. One of the coolest design elements I think Voyager presented, or that you put into Voyager, was the ability to land right on a planet. I mean, the landing struts that gave it a whole new range to its mission. And talk a little bit about the decision-making process to do that, and why they opted for that over saucer separation.
Well, the idea of landing the ship came from the writers. Okay, and very early on in the design process, okay, there was a hint that maybe we would do an episode where the ship would touch down on planet. It wouldn't come until the 37s. Okay, but at the very, very beginning of designing Voyager, okay, well, not the beginning, but the most final design of the ship. Okay, at the bottom of the engineering hull, I put 4 hatches, 4 access doors, which to me would be the logical place to put landing gear. Okay, and the landing gear I hadn't even considered, for real. I hadn't sketched anything up, but I had the doors where the legs would come out. If we ever got into it, and we finally got into it. All right, and then I designed, the folding, the folding leg parts, and the foot pads would fold up, and you got to see that in CG when the feet actually came out. So that wasn't me suggesting it, but I made it work. And there have been fans who have said, well, Voyager is so heavy it would crush the feet or sink into the planet. And I had to kind of explain, okay, the legs are not holding up the entire mass of the ship. okay, the impulse fields, you know, from the space-time driver coils, it's a mouthful, right? The impulse fields actually, you know, suspended 90% of the mass, and the feet are basically there so that the ship doesn't skid around. Okay, if the impulse fields failed, okay, yeah, then they would retract the feet and slowly sink into the surface. But you know, you can come up with a rationale for just about anything. All right, and to me that works. Okay, and I, you know, and I've told folks, look, if the impulse engines can drive the ship at like 25 Gs, you know, without people getting hurt, okay, countering 1 or 2 Gs of a planet is nothing.
The joy.
Why didn't you finish it?
All right, so that's about the end of the interview. We go on to just make some, thank yous for joining us for the interview, and then wrap it up from there. This is pretty much the end of it there. But what do you guys think about that? Some of the stuff that he designed, and he said at one point before he started Voyager, he had designed over 50 ships and shuttles, and that's crazy.
Well, I got tickled to death when he said, and I read, a 5 foot miniature.
The 5 foot miniature filming model, yeah.
Do you know what a
Yeah.
5 foot thing
It's
is?
5 feet.
It's not a miniature.
I mean, that's almost like a hero on the film.
Yeah.
But I have to say, man, he is talented. Those drawings were beautiful and interesting. Can you imagine? To see all that was amazing and impressive, but watching it come to life.
Yeah, coming to life in the
my
show.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yes, that would have been wow.
I'm incredibly envious because I remember when I was a 14, 15-year-old young man watching The Next Generation, watching DS9. My friend and I, who were both Star Trek fans, we would sit down for hours and doodle and try to design our own starship and design our own. And this guy did it for a living. He got in with Gene Roddenberry on a chance encounter, and it's incredible.
But still, I mean, it was amazing. Even the one in pencil.
The blue pencil. He's having loves doing blue
You
pencil.
know, where they actually rubbed it with their finger to
Different
make
shading.
it, you know, and it's like that is beautiful.
really
It's by itself. I mean, it was like
Yeah. Jenny, you want to chime in?
All the ships that he worked on were some of the choice ships that I bought in Star Trek Online. Very different designs, from the Malon to the Kazon to the Delta Flyer. The original designs that he came up with for Voyager were really interesting, and it was really cool to kind of see the evolution of what they were doing. I would have loved to see the fins, you know, for the I think it was called the Shield Repulsor Relay or something.
Yeah.
On the
You got that
blueprint.
right.
And those were really cool. And then he worked on the Prometheus as well. I wish we could have done this live, because I had the Prometheus in Star Trek Online. And because it's a ship that splits into 3 parts, it's really fun to use, because you get to choose what part you take command of, and then the ship's AI controls the other parts, and each different section has a different set of weapons systems.
Multi-vector.
One has like disruptors and regular photons. Another one has regular phasers and quantum torpedoes. So it's a really good ship. But I named mine the Triforce and modeled it
Nice.
after the Legend of Zelda. So it was all green and gold and stuff.
That's
Um,
cool.
so those ship designs are really great. And I'm surprised that he didn't have a lot more to show us, but I'm sure he did. He just kind of kept it down to a minimum because the amount of stuff one of those artists have is unfathomable. You know what I mean?
He actually has a much, much larger presentation that he does for conventions specifically. And he didn't want to sort of give away, all of the secrets.
Magic.
And I also wish we had done this live because it would have given you guys an opportunity to ask your questions and talk to him. And I think that would have been really great. But his availability was kind of off the wall. So we had to kind of get him when we could. And you talk about some of the early designs of Voyager that he showed us, where initially he was going for that throwing knife or dart form with the more angular or pointy like saucer.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it was really interesting. He even had some like nacelles that were turned down, like the Excelsior, not the Excelsior. What is that? The Miranda. I think it was the Miranda class.
You mean the
really interesting.
Oh yeah,
The
Miranda or Reliant, one of the two.
Excelsior.
I think it
The
was the
only
red
It's the
line.
Equinox. I
Mm.
think you're talking. Yeah.
Very cool.
The other
didn't even-
thing I
Oh,
was
go ahead.
curious
Go ahead.
about was if he designed, because he said he had a lot of work in the shuttles. So I
Mhm.
was just curious if he designed, maybe Mark, if he had any hand in the Yellowstone design.
Yellowstone was a runabout, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, on Deep
Yeah.
Space Nine.
He did do a lot of he collaborated with somebody on the design of the runabout, yes.
Okay, because they designed the Yellowstone. Harry was the one that designed it in one of the episodes where he went into that alternate timeline,
Right.
Oh,
and it was
true.
kind of carried over into Deep Space Nine. So I was just kind of curious about that, but great interview all around for sure.
Thanks.
Mhm.
I was quite shocked. In all the time that we watched Voyager, I mentioned it in the video or in the interview that I really like the potential to land on planet surfaces, which we never see the Enterprise D do unless Deanna Troi is at the helm, and then it's the wrong kind of landing. But to be honest with you, I never really thought about the fact that we never got a saucer separation from Voyager.
We didn't.
And in my research, I found out that the Voyager was not designed for that function. Like it didn't really do it at all. I was shocked. I didn't know.
No, saucer separation for the D was only done because it was a Galaxy class family oriented flagship. Like even the 1701E didn't have that function because it was not meant to be separated because the whole ship was a battleship. They didn't have families to protect. The whole point of the D separating was to put the families on the saucer section and get away. And then the star drive section could go into the fray, so to speak.
I always thought the E had the capability, but they just never did it. But
Nope.
You might be right. You might be right.
Oh, I want to add.
Lawrence, and then Kierce, and then Sammy. Lawrence.
Well, what I sorry to interrupt, but actually I love that going back into the Prometheus, the mode was on what you said, Denny. It's actually multi-vector assess mode to separate the three saucers, the three modes. So like what you said, it's basically like a command ship. You can take any command. And I'm going back to his part. It's basically the D was meant to be separated, like basically like a backup escape pod. If you want to get everybody, get your family off the one side of the ship, you can put them there. And of course, gel packs was on the E.
Yeah. The gel packs were pretty cool. And Marina agrees with you in chat. Marina says that the Voyager was just too small to separate, which is true. It wasn't as large nearly as the Enterprise D, the Galaxy class. And so it might not have needed that capability at all. I was reading, when I was reading this technical specs about Voyager, it said that the ship only had 226 rooms on the ship. And I know that's kind of a small technical or stupid technical detail, but I thought that was interesting considering the size of the Galaxy class, and there's, tons of extra space.
I was gonna say, but you're talking about the
Voyager.
But is Voyager a 15-floor deck?
Yeah.
And
That's how long it is. It's got 226 rooms.
That's it?
Yeah.
For a 15-floor deck?
Yeah.
Just 200. Wow, those rooms must be like suites.
And Voyager only has, at least at the beginning, one holodeck. I didn't know that either. I thought they would have multiple holodecks like the Enterprise did, but Kierce.
I don't mind staying in one of those suites.
I bet.
Yeah, I put in the chat only because we were talking about the differences in size for Voyager and the TNG era Enterprise. Voyager would have no need to have a saucer, to have the ability to separate, because Voyager's crew at the start, when they left space dock, was about 150 versus the TNG era Enterprise. I forget it was 1,000 or 1,500, but that included the families and the support, civilian support workers. Like we see some of the waiters in 10 Forward are civilians. So when you're talking about 1,000 to 1,500, including civilians, yeah, you do have a need to evacuate people because not everybody's essential for the mission. But the reason I'd raised my hand, and I think I missed this at some part of the interview, was I don't quite understand the physics of how come when Voyager would land, how come it didn't tip forward? Because it always seemed to me to be a bit forward heavy design. I love the design, and I think Voyager's a beautiful ship. I just don't see how she didn't need struts to maintain her balance when she landed.
So that's an interesting question, and he did kind of address it a little bit in the show, in that when the ship is landed on the planet's surface, the engines aren't entirely shut down. The engines, the impulse drivers are being used to lower the inertial mass of the ship and balance it. And so all it really needed was those 4 landing struts just to place it on the ground so that it doesn't sink into the ground. And he said he's had fans come up to him and, confused by that. But the reasoning that he gives is if you're traveling through space at, say, warp speed, you're going so fast that you're pulling 25 Gs, of mass.
Right.
And when you're sitting still on a planet surface, generally Earth-like planets, Class M planets, are right around 1.0 gravity. So you don't need nearly as much the power to keep it stabilized, and that was the reasoning he gave.
Right.
Yeah, so
And
it doesn't slide around the surface.
When they landed, and I kind of thought that when they landed, they were usually in such drastic or dire straits, they had the engines completely shut down. At least in the episodes where, and I could be wrong, but I thought a couple times they were either completely out of fuel or things were completely broken down and they were landing so they could shut everything off and do some major work that required everything to be turned off. That was the whole reason for landing.
That I think
Except
I know what
when
you're
they get
talking
dumped
about.
by the Kazon.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just thinking of that, but I could be wrong.
I think you're right. And I think I remember the episode that you're talking about. It was either the Vog War episode or, which was what, Scorpion? No, Dragon Seed. I remember what you're talking about, but I think
I don't know. But there's
I'd have to go back and watch it. It might have just been
where
sort of
they're in such rough shape after something happens that they have to put down. I mean, when the Kazon kidnap them and abandon them, they're just putting down to drop them off and leave them. But there's another episode, I think, where Voyager is so messed up they have to stop and put Voyager back together.
Yeah.
And it's not Year of Hell because they resolved that differently.
I think you're right, and I think it might have just been a canonical error by the writers. I'm not certain on it, but I know what you're
Okay.
talking about, so that's a
So-
valid point.
So the script writers overcame the laws of physics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I texted you, Pierce. I just want to let you know, if you didn't see my text, there's some kind of weird lagginess on your video. So if it seems like I'm stepping over you talking, it's because there's a lag, and I just want to let you know that if I interrupt you, I apologize.
Yeah, you freeze,
Okay.
but yet I can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. No
Um,
problem.
Sammy,
Yes. He is amazing at the stuff he's created. I did not know when I saw that prop in Chakotay's quarters that it was the Milky Way. Like, because you see it so,
I know, right? Oh my God,
and that
yes.
just like the lines are black holes. If you don't know enough about the universe and the stars and all the maps, like you're not gonna catch that. Did anyone else catch it when they saw that episode?
I have no idea.
I didn't know
No,
he, like,
not
he didn't
until
tell
he
Jerry
said it.
Springer until later. But it puts like this really cool background to his character of like what his family knows and like what they possibly could have been traveled more than what he knows of. I like it.
Sure. And it's funny because, we have a couple different episodes where Chakotay deals with his father through vision quests or whatever else, or he has flashbacks to his family. But then we also have that episode, I think it's roundabout season 3, Marina, you can probably correct me, where Chakotay runs into the rubber tree indigenous peoples,
Mhm.
and it turns out that they're related to his tribe,
Yeah.
and
know what season.
Right, that
so
was really
that's on separate sides of the galaxy. So obviously they've either traveled or been traveled, right?
right, and that's the
And
only time
so
we heard about the traveling.
That's what you said. The lines were
wormholes.
Yeah, were wormholes.
Yeah, which is really cool.
Mhm.
And the fact that they thought that deeply when designing, a personal object like that I think it's pretty fascinating.
And a lot of the
thought so
prop
too.
masters, the people who do the props, they do think that deep into the characters and stuff. And you'll see, like in books and things that I've read and interviews, they say things like this, and I'm just like, yeah, I did not notice that.
Oh,
Man, if they had only known that when they were at the caretaker, they could have used it as a map to find the next wormhole and get home sooner, right?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Oh, I didn't think
And
that.
Marina says in chat that one of the wormholes depicted on the mandala was the DS9 wormhole. It was actually intended to be that way, I guess. That's interesting.
Ah, see,
Well,
if we don't
one of
know,
them
we don't
had to
know.
be that Ferengi wormhole too that they ended up getting introduced to, those Ferengi guys.
Right. The Barzan wormhole, yeah, from the Next Generation. The Price, I think it was called the Price.
Yeah.
That's a good episode. Okay, last thought of the day for Risa or Malcolm. Risa, Malcolm.
Yes, I wanted to ask, since you've done so many shuttlecraft and stuff, did you do the Defiant and the Delta Flyer as well? I didn't hear about that. Because the Defiant was described as a tough little ship, I think.
Yeah, that's
Someone-
right, the tough little ship.
I
And then
think
Worf says, little.
little, yes.
Very insulting.
One thing that I was really trying to wrap my head around was the size of Voyager's shuttle bay. Whenever we get close-ups of the shuttle bay, it doesn't look much bigger than the Delta Flyer, right? But we have a whole 7 seasons worth of shuttlecraft, and he called them the speedboats, and he had the modified Type 6 shuttlecraft, and then the Delta Flyer. And there's an episode called Alice where we see the inside of the shuttle bay, and it's actually slightly larger. It looks about the width of 2 shuttlecraft, right? So he's got the Delta Flyer and Alice. But where did they put all the rest of the shuttlecraft? I was trying to figure out what the complement of the how many shuttles it carried, because we know they lose their fair share of shuttlecraft throughout the series. So
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know.
Neelix
It's a mystery
says,
to me.
Yeah,
and
they
Neelix
were
says
all
in their stuff.
gorgeous drawings.
Yeah. Tenny.
Yeah, with that question in mind, I think it boils down to they've been there for so long. Don't forget that a lot of these episodes, um, even in one season, they'll go from one episode to another until they start hitting their arcs, and it's been months, very obviously. So they get in these big battles, and they're obviously reconstructing all of these shuttlecraft by hand, and I think that's where Paris finally has uh his fill of it, and he's like, you know what? Let's design something that's going to last and actually do the job instead of reconstructing these basic Neanderthalish designs that are going to get blown up at a moment's notice. I mean, we can't even get away from anybody in these things. Let's make it a little bigger and do a little bit better. And Tuvok's like, we can't do any race car stuff because there's no aeronautics involved. It flies in space, dude.
No racing stripes down the side.
No
No
racing
spoilers?
stripes, no airfoils or nothing. And it's a really sleek design when they came down to it.
It really is. It
Oh,
really
yeah.
is. And a lot of the alien ships that he designed, and the Voth ships were amazing to me. The Arrow Wing shuttle, which we never did get to actually see in use. Just really amazing, all of the work that goes into it. And then he constructed the models and all the details, and just unbelievable.
It was
So.
really fascinating to see what goes into all that. It really is
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
And I do want to say one thing about the Arrow shuttle. I played Star Trek Online, and they actually finally fleshed out the Arrow shuttle so you could actually use it as a defensive measure. You didn't get to control it; it would fly around and help defend you. But it looked exactly like the fully fleshed out top over design that he showed us. So they carried it over into the game. So I hope maybe Mark, you can relay that to him that the Arrow shuttle is actually used in the game, and oh boy, is it fun!
It is the Arrow shuttle.
Hey, interesting fact for you. This is a canonical error from Caretaker, the pilot. You guys know the scene where Tom Paris is on a shuttlecraft being delivered to Deep Space Nine at the very beginning.
Right.
There's two shots of the exterior of the shuttle as it's flying towards DS9. One of those shots says Enterprise D on the outside. The other shot shows Voyager on the outside. So look for that next time you are watching.
Interesting.
Oh, wow.
So apparently somebody
I
messed that
saw
up.
that and I wondered about it. I saw that and I wondered about it. But I know that in Deep Space Nine's premiere, the Enterprise is docked to Deep Space Nine. So Picard and Cisco can go toe to toe.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. So that's about all the time we have for this segment. Really interesting stuff about the design work, and really just blows my mind how much amazing work Rick Sternbach and his team put in on the design work. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I know it was a little long. I was hoping to keep it around 45 minutes, and it just kind of went a little longer. But I appreciate you guys joining us for this segment of the Voyager 30 celebration. Please keep in mind that you can donate to the charity at any time if you see the QR code or the donation link on the Facebook page or in the next Zooms. If you already donated, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I will be choosing a winner later this evening for today's prize. And also at 7 o'clock Eastern time, that's 4 o'clock on the Pacific Coast, we're going to be playing some general Voyager trivia. So I hope you guys will join us for that. There will be another prize for that trivia. So just a quick heads up, if you are going to come to trivia, you will need either a QR code scanner or a web browser that you can use to type in the address for the game. That's how you participate.
How many people can join the trivia? Because last time we couldn't join.
Thank you, Sammy. On New Year's Eve, we played a game, and There was some kind of glitch with my account, which limited me to 5 participants. But I've since fixed that. I can have as many as 100 participants now. So
Oh,
Oh,
it
yay.
was a
Okay, I'll be there in a few
some
minutes.
kind of
then.
glitch.
Should we just
But
stay on if
hopefully,
you're gonna be here at, is it 4?
what's that, Sammy?
You said the trivia is like at 4. It's 3:40 here.
Yep. In about 20 minutes, I'm going to end this Zoom so that I can use this segment individually for the YouTube channel. And then I will restart the Zoom for trivia at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
You can use the same Zoom link that you used to get into this
That's what I
and the same
tried
password.
earlier. I tried to use the link from earlier this morning to get onto this one for the pre-recorded interview, and it didn't work. So I had
No,
to find
that's
one
been
in the chat.
corrected. There was a typo in the Zoom link that's been corrected. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I hope to see you guys at trivia. If not, please feel free to drop into any of the other great events we have going on tomorrow. You can get the full schedule on our Facebook page under the events tab, or our website, which is stfamily.org, www.stfamily.org. All right. Thank you all so much. Live long and prosper, and happy Voyager 30. Have a great night, folks.
You too.
Yes.